We're in Texas. We're in Texas. I'm 51 years old. I don't drink. I've never had a margarita. One night with Katie, I had 4. I woke up late the next morning, missed a whole block of movies I wanted to watch. So when I talk about building community, just make sure you take it easy on the alcohol. Because I'm a lightweight as it is. Oh, here's another one. I'm Southern, I don't want to be rude.
Short twist my arm, why don't you?
So everyone, we got the director's panel. Round of applause for this amazing. So let's introduce ourselves, alright, and the title of the movie you have in the Northfield Festival. And after that, I start with questions, and I drop more questions actually this time to you guys. All right. So go ahead, Olivia, or Brandon. Yeah, Olivia first.
Hi, my name's Olivia Andrade, and my film was titled Scott. It was a short film that I made at the Florida State University College of Motion Picture Arts.
Hi, I'm Paul Thomas, and I'm here with a documentary about Ukrainian architects called The Architects of Hope.
Hello, I'm Yael Arad Zafrir, and I'm here with a short movie which is called Alala. Hi.
Hi, I'm Paul Thompson, and my film is called Stalkers. It's a feature film, and yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Priscil. Zanni. I'm here with a short film called Wrong Move, and it was produced at that time at the New York Film Academy here in New York.
I'm Brandon Keeton. If you were in the last one, you know.
New.
I'm new, and my film here is Calls. And that was made by a bunch of community college kids, including myself. I'm the world's oldest film student. That was made by a bunch of community college kids in central Podunk, Pennsylvania, Amish country. And as of 3 weeks ago, we hit our first streamer, so we got a distribution deal out of it. And last night I found out we're now in the Guinness Book of World Records for our poster. Our poster for Calls was a part of the montage of posters that was done at another film festival in Arizona to create the largest ever movie poster ever, and now it's in Guinness.
And that festival is for our good friend Mitesh Chandler.
Yeah.
Which is a good friend. You can mention it, yes.
Yeah, that's just
So
awesome.
everyone, let's start with the pre-production. How do you approach it? All right. So,
Gosh, I'm the first one to go. Well, for me, as I said, my film was done at my film school, so luckily I have a lot of those resources there for me, so I don't have to worry about, gathering equipment and crew. We actually all crew each other's films in my school. We have a class of only like 20, 30 people, and we all just rotate roles on each other's films, which I think is a really cool experience because we all get to see what it's like being each and every role, so then when you're not in that role and you're working with people in that role, you have like a really good understanding of what that's like because you've done the same thing. But we're on a pretty tight schedule. My film was only 2 production days of filming, and I think we tried to truncate as many locations as possible because my film kind of jumps around a little bit in the story, but we tried to make the most of our locations because obviously 2 days you can only do so many company moves and it loses you a lot of time. And our pre-production phase was only about a week long, so that's also very truncated in making sure we get all those locations and actors together. But luckily we work at my school very closely with a school of theater, so we get a lot of actors from them. But yeah, that was kind of my experience with my short film.
I actually come from a TV background and scripted comedy. So previously I was used to pre-production being spending a lot of time in development, where you're working on maybe 10, 15 ideas, and it's always the channel that decides which one of those ideas is going to be made, and so you're putting a lot of work into the other 14 ideas, which never kind of go anywhere. But with documentaries, which I've been working on for around 10 years now, the pre-production, you're doing a lot of research, but I always find it really starts moving when you go and do the recce and you find the real people and you start filming, and pretty much always the documentary starts to take on a life of its own then, and it doesn't write itself. You still need to put a lot of thought into the storylines and where things are going, but I find that it's that connection with actually going on the recce, meeting the real people, seeing the real place, and that kind of starts off the production process.
So my pre-production started when I got the money. I got money from the Negev Foundation, which wanted me to make money in the desert in order to see other places in movies and not just Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. And then we went to the location we wanted because it was supposed to be in a specific location. So we went down south and found out when we could hire it, because we needed to sleep there for 3 days and we needed to have accommodation for the whole group. And then they gave us the date, and then we started to cut it back backwards from where we are until that date for the pre-production, which left us something like 3 months. So I started with a producer, which needed to bring a crew from the south. When you get money for a place, you have to do 30% of the people from that area. So it's harder because you can't choose whoever you want. You have to have people in the main roles that are from the south. So it was a bit harder. So I started with her and with my DOP, and we start to break down everything and realize how much we'll need and how much time we'll need and what equipment we will need. So I turned to I think they're not in main roles, they're creators in my movie. So I had appointment with every one of them and in this 3 months, and this is how I figure out what I need to be done and organized everything. And the rehearsals were really close to the shooting. It made changes in the breakdown of the day that we did, because we realized that there are stuff that will need more time because it's a one shot, and usually one shot makes it easier, but you can't cut it, so it needs to be precise. So that was the process of it.
So I guess for me, we had the script for my film goes back like 9 years before we started actually shooting, and it was just a kind of a personal project that I wanted to make at some point. And I would say over the years I would make little schedules, like what if I was going to shoot this? So so I would actually start doing little like one-line schedules for myself, and then try to like write dollar values, like what's that day going to cost or something. And they were always wrong. Like there was so much more in reality. But I also, in my like day job existence, I own a rental house in Toronto, like that we rent film equipment. And so sometime post-pandemic, I have a great group of people I work with. I had shared the script with them, and we sort of started bouncing around the idea of doing it. And then it was like, hey, you know what? Like, why don't we see if we can actually go ahead with this? And I guess that's when pre-production began. Like, we decided to do some casting. We did like a casting call. We got a lot of self-tapes just to sort of see if we could find the people to fill these roles in the film. And so that would have been about 3 or 4 months before like going to camera. And then sort of when we started to find people, it was like, okay, I think we have pre-production. Like, I think we can sort of start a ball rolling. Let's sort of set a target for shooting. But it was a little loose at that point. And yeah, I think we could have probably had a tighter pre-production process, but it was kind of like sort of loose, which was actually good for us in a lot of ways. But eventually we just had to sort of set a target date. And I think our schedule was, bit of a mess, a bit ambitious, a bit like we learned a lot as we shot this film, and I'd love to do another one where I have a really much tighter, idea of what pre-production is. My experience for years in film has always been on set in production, so like pre-production is something I don't know about, and even post-production is something I knew less about than I thought. My expectations for how long things could take was like, oh, like we could turn this around in a couple weeks, like no. I'm still like, and I was still doing post on my film, so yeah, I learned a lot about like, oh, I know, I could get me on set, I'm really comfortable, but pre-production, like knowing even what I'm supposed to be doing as director sometimes, like I feel a lot of times I didn't get to, do a director's job because I was sort of worrying about other scheduling things and other sort of logistical producer type things too, but yeah, so I don't know, hope that was a good answer.
Wow, pre-production, it's a really wide concept because without pre-production there is nothing, without pre-production there's no production, you cannot just start filming. For me, pre-production is like where you actually feel safe, you have to have everything organized and as prepared as possible because either way something is going to go wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Something is gonna go wrong, and the more prepared you are. At least this is what I learned from my experience until now. The more prepared you are, the better it is. The better you are. When you are on set, if something goes wrong, you're gonna be, well, it's okay. At least I was prepared. What am I gonna do about it? So, I could go on and on with things that happened, things that didn't happen, but at least for my film, Wrong Move, there was a lot of like TikTok type of dancing involved. I'm not a choreographer. I don't dance, that's not my thing. But I couldn't hire a dancer. So I had to make up the dances myself. When I told that to my actresses, to my three leads, they were like, oh, you did this dance? And they were like, yes, and what we're gonna do right now is a pre-visualization. We're gonna see how it's gonna cut in the edit. We're gonna try it out, make all the storyboards, like all the preparation that you can do before filming. It's the best that you can do is what's gonna help you in the edit. Later. So that's what I could say. That's what I could say.
For those of you who are not in the last panel for the writers, I did 21 years in the Marine Corps, and I approach pre-production like a military operation. I do make sure that, unlike a military operation, I do make sure that I give myself enough lead time. We started pre-production on stories, shooting in July. We're shooting it in July. We started pre-production in September. So I always like to make sure that I give myself enough leeway, enough time to make sure. So even though we're shooting this in July, I'm not worried. Everything's done. Like literally everything's done. I'm waiting to shoot. And to your point, something's gonna go wrong. So and that's fine because everything's done. So when something does go wrong, I can focus on fixing that instead of in the middle of doing all this other stuff, try to fix that now too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So give it, if you're able to give yourself enough enough time, and don't rush anything. I'm at a different point in life. This is my third career. I don't have to work anymore. I'm retired twice.
That's an amazing point to be.
Yeah, so I'm an actor, and there was a producer. I produce, write, direct, and act. And there was a producer and a director. It's like, well, what happens if you don't get the part? And I'm like, what? I get to sleep until noon again? Okay, So yeah, I'm in a different boat. So I'm able to give myself a lot of time to make something. and I find that tends to help.
Let's talk about how you guys approach the collaboration with the cinematographer. As you know, they're like directors, pretty good ones, right?
Yes.
But they can influence a lot in your vision, right? Or turning into them. How do you balance that?
Yeah, this was something that I mentioned briefly after my screening when we did the Q&A. As I said, at my film school, we kind of all rotate positions, and me and my DP, we actually did each other's, so I also DP'd his name's Sebastian. And I feel like that in itself created a lot of trust between us. I think trust is very important. Knowing that we've all kind of done those roles, I know that everyone is capable of doing them. And I think for me, I care a lot about the visuals as a director. I would say I'm kind of a cinematography focused director a little bit, and as much as I have visions, I definitely like to communicate the shots that I see and maybe specific scenes that are really important, but then outside of those very specific moments that I can see and definitely want, I like to give the reins to my DP a lot. I feel like it's important to, as my team is letting me in my directing, like give me the space to do that creatively, I think it's also important that you give those other positions their space to fulfill their creative ideas and kind of bring something new to the table, and less just like, oh, this is what I want, just film it for me, and more, what do you think, what do you want to film, how do you think we can elevate this story with what you know about cinematography. So yeah, that's kind of my approach on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. On this current film, I've done most of the camera work myself, but on previous projects, I do like to. I tend to work with quite a small pool of DOPs, but I really like, and I'm quite visual myself, but I really like handing over that responsibility to that person and to kind of give them the space to add their vision into it. I just think that's no matter how strong your own vision is, I think it's just an important part of the overall process. To have that, because they're focused entirely on the picture. You're focused on the performers, on the kind of the storylines, and it's good to be able to hand over someone who's just so focused on how it's looking, and it's just important from a teamwork point of view as well, not to be kind of trying to dominate them or dictate, but to work in a truly kind of collaborative way, and it always works better when you can do that.
Well, I'm a control freak. Haven't said that. I control the people I choose. So I choose artists. I choose people I really believe in. I like what they do. And I give a lot of trust in them. So I tell them my vision, but I'm open-minded to another vision in it, because movies layers, and there's the script that I wrote with another script writer, and then I rewrite it again as a director with my cinematographer, because she had amazing ideas, and by visualizing it, she told me, listen, you have this scene and this scene, and it's the same. I mean, you don't notice, but I can see it, and it's the same. So why should you do the same scene? Let's make it more efficient, more interesting. So she made me rewrite the movie as a director, which I would probably have done at the editing room, but she helped me do it before. So I'm very trustful at them. So I gave her a lot of freedom in the creating process. I was the one to choose at the end, because I'm the conductor of everything, but I bring a lot of talents in it, and she's the conductor of the light. So she brings her partner, and he's an artist, and she works with him, and they bring me the solution to things I want. So I have a lot of trust in the creators that I bring. So that's my point of view.
I always like to kind of kind of tease my DP that, you know, at the end of the day, everyone's going to give me credit for all these great shots. Why did you shoot that? Amazing! Like, what an amazing shot! That was like, oh yeah, I all over that. But when really, yeah, I had an amazing cinematographer. I didn't know him prior to working on this film. It was again one of these sort of like putting out calls and see who was out there. And in many ways, I saw a lot of very slick reels, and you know, obviously some very talented cinematographers out there looking for work. And I would say his wasn't as slick in some ways, but it actually just had such great storytelling. Like all the clips he chose in his reel were about storytelling, and so that was why I wanted to meet him. And yeah, it turns out he's fantastic and amazing to work with, and just very calm and just so organized and structured on set. So yeah, so I really like to back off and like let him, you know, work his magic and run his team and just get the lighting was gorgeous in the film. The shots, I'm really, you know, always amazed when I watch it and just look at some of the stuff he did. And yeah, I had an influence on it, but I tried to sort of step back primarily and focus on working with the cast and everything else going on set, and rely on the DP. Like after we'd obviously talked about the film so much, and I would say that creatively, my cinematographer definitely was as close to the film as I was throughout the entire process, even in post. Like I would bounce so many ideas off of him because he knew he and I had just discussed this vision for so long. He knew as well as anybody, you know, involved in the project what we were trying to achieve. So yeah, it was a great collaboration, and yeah, I just enjoyed sometimes just walking up and saying, okay, so what is this shot? And like, oh wow, it's looking great. So.
You made me remind that my cinematographer also was really involved in the post production. That when that happens is really nice because you guys have worked together in this. I feel that a shot list is gold. The shot list is gold, and yes, as collaboration is super important. Without collaboration, you cannot make a film alone. We know that. But I think it appeared also in another panel. I feel like a director has to make its own shot list for sure. The cinematographer can do it, but you need to do it. Because what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be on set maybe, and the AD is gonna tell you, oh, but didn't you have this OTS? Didn't you wanna do this? And then the cinematographer is gonna be like, oh, but what about that insert? And then, you know, a lot of comments are gonna come in that moment, and then you have to decide at the end of the day. You have to make a decision. That's it, because the talk is clicking, and you don't have all the time of the world, probably, most likely, and so you have to make a decision. No, this is what we're going to do. So I feel like as much as collaboration is crazy important with your cinematographer, it's good to have this bond and this amazing trust with him or her or them. I feel like you need to have very clear your shots, what you want.
I love how your answers segue into my answers. Perfect placement,
Amazing.
I shoot fast. Again, I own businesses. I was coming from the military. I can make a decision on something on 70 or 80% information. I don't have to have all the information in order to make a decision. Sometimes that bites me in the ass, but most of the time, it ends up working out. So I tend to shoot fast, and I need a DP that can also solve problems quickly. I find that because I tend to shoot fast, I don't prefer a DP who's worked on $1 million commercials where every little thing has to be perfect for, you know, a 2-second shot. I need somebody who can go. And yeah, all right, we're 80% there. Okay, shoot, go, action. You know, and that's the way that I prefer to do it, because then you're not. It makes the crew extremely loyal if you can get an 8-hour day instead of a 12-hour day. So yeah, I prefer to work with DP who can shoot shoot and solve problems as quickly as me. I hope that answers the question.
Let's go quickly to production and pause, and then we move to question. How do you guys deal with actors and crew members, cast members that sometimes slow the production actually? You know? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so let's see, my crew was around 10 people, I think. So definitely a fairly small crew. My producer was also my first AD, which I feel like has got to be the most stressful combination. Running around having like bogeys walking on set, like, please get out, we're doing a shot, go. But I mean, I already said this like multiple times, but since we've all done each other's films and each other's roles, I feel like we have a really strong connection and we all know what each other's doing and what we're doing individually. It's a really cool experience that way. And, you know, you gotta respect the role that you're in, but we can also all kind of lean on each other and help each other out when there's questions or anything of that nature. When it comes to my cast and my actors, I feel like what's really important for me as a director is I want set to be calm and smooth, and I think most of the work needs to be done before you even walk onto the first set day. I feel like by the time you get to set, at that point, I already know my actors know what they're doing and they got it because we've already rehearsed it, we've already talked about the script, they already know the story and the characters, and at that point I'm letting them take it to be what actually gets filmed and gets put on the screen. And then another thing that's really important to me with my actors is watching their performance. I might be happy with the performance, but before we move on, I always ask, how did you feel about that shot? Like, how did you feel about that take, that performance? And if they look at me and they're kind of like, I feel like I could do it a little better, I feel like I could go again, I'm like, you're right, let's go again then. Because to me, it's not just about if I'm happy with it, it's also about if they're happy with it and they feel like they have something left in the tank or not. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach my crew and actors.
A couple of tricks I learned early on. The first one is not just to use rehearsals to go through the script as it is, but to talk about the backstory, even if the backstory is not going to feature it. It really helps because the actors often come together, they've never met each other. And so you're doing a bit of work on who, if it's a husband and wife, what's happened previously in their life that's brought them to this moment. And so it's always, and I would say probably at least a third of the rehearsal time is spent on this kind of backstory and workshopping how those relationships work. And then the second trick is a thing called counter direction, where you'll tell one actor something that the other actor doesn't know that you've told them. You know, if there's some animosity and in real life these people are, you know, friends and nice to each other, it's giving them maybe an incident that happened 5 years ago and this is why you hate them, but the other performer doesn't know this, and it kind of brings a spark of realism to the performance. You can give them this, if the two people, because they've both seen the script, they know what's in the script, but if you can add this kind of, this element of that they don't know about it can bring the performance alive.
With the actors, I come from acting, so I speak their language, and I let them improvise. I let the scene breathe. I mean, if I try to do everything real precise, sometimes I'm cutting their wings and making them like walk in very narrow shoes and not comfortable, and I want them to be comfortable in their characters because they need to be their characters, and we are comfortable or not comfortable with our body if that's the personality we need to be. But so I let them breathe in it. There is improvise, and you find out that when they improvise, what you do after an improvisation, you say, it's a keeper. You need to keep this. That was amazing. That is exactly what we need for this character or for this connection. So it's very important to say what is a keeper, because it's really easy for us to say, well, it wasn't precise the way you said it, and it's not building up confidence. So you need to say what is good, and then try something else, but this one, keep it. So you get layers of layers of layers by this improvisation, and at the end, they are doing the same thing over and over again, but they breathe through it because they feel as if they're creating it every time. And the second thing is that I had a problem with my assistant director, and at the first day, and I think it's very important to reach out and talk, because then you understand what's not working for her, because she felt a few things that she needed to work out, and if I was just why do you talk to people like that? Oh, why do you do that? She would be offended and she will close. And I came to her and said, what about today? What are you feelings? How do you feel this day has passed? And she told me all her problems in that day. And when I realized where it hurts for her, I could fix it. And the next day was amazing because our communication was good and she could count on me that I can see her. I didn't see her attitude. I understood where it came from. So I didn't react for her talking very loud or not very polite. I reacted for her stress. So I think it's a good thing to understand people from where their behavior comes. So that's mine.
I guess the one thing I can think of just hearing the various answers, our production ended up taking 2 years, like a lot of stops and starts. I mean, it wasn't 2 years of filming every single day, but we had certain things that sort of stopped our production. Our lead actress, not on set, injured her foot by dropping. You know in the kitchen when you drop a knife and you go, oh my god, thank God that didn't hit my toes. Well, like that for her it did. It went right through the big
Not
toe.
in the movie.
No, not on set. I know.
Because it
Like,
could
I'm so
have been
glad.
there.
I know there could have been knives. I know. But it's like I'm so glad her injury. But so we shut down for 6 months. At a certain point, she had a few surgeries on that foot, and she's doing well now. Although technically, it'll never quite be healed the same. But she's good. But I feel like I made a lot of phone calls to cast during the course of this production. Like, okay, so unfortunately, we're gonna be pausing the schedule for a while, and it's gonna be a few months, and so part of it was like staying positive, even if like inside it felt like I don't know if we're ever gonna finish this movie. Like we might be done, but I just had to make sure everybody else kind of believed that. So that was like I think one of our biggest challenges was like just maintaining the positivity.
Amazing.
At least outwardly, and then I think so like maybe my producer Vince back there and some others probably had the more candid conversations with me of like, okay, so this feels a little off the rails today, or like what's going on, but keeping that positive attitude all the time. So there were some calls like that. I mean, on set, because of these sort of starts and stops, we had people come and go on our crew, so we wouldn't always have the same. By the end, we had like one big block at the beginning, then we had a big break, and then we had a little pickup, and then we came back and did another big chunk. And that was the majority of the filming, was sort of like 2 big blocks with a few little, days that we were like, hey, we could do this, let's do a quick pickup day here. And by the end, it was like we had all the people we really loved to work with. Like we knew, and there were people who were just so committed. And then there were a few who I would have loved to have had back, but they had moved on to other projects and things. But, we ended up with a different production designer for the majority of the film after the first block, just again, kind of due to, scheduling and things, but our new production designer was just so great and so on top of it that it was great to, to evolve. Like this production evolved so often that it was maybe different than a typical film. So yeah, I don't know, I guess to me that's sort of the main takeaway from this was like, well, we had a lot of stops and starts, and so that kind of meant you kept adapting on how you're working with people, but it was sort of also just maintaining it wasn't a lie, but it was just like making sure people knew that I still believed in the project and that I was like, their work was still going to get there somewhere. So it's great to be finally showing the film to people.
Yeah.
Darwin, this is again a big question because no actors, no film. So, for me, I would say three things. I would say started talking about the rehearsals. I also come from acting in theater. Actually, I started when I was 4. Actually, acting, and I was a child. How do you say this? Film actor, child actor. Child actor. Yeah. Back in Spain, Barcelona, and all these. I'm from Barcelona. So, I would say. I put myself in the shoes of the actors a lot when I'm directing. It's super important. It's important for a director to know acting. It's super important to know the different types of methods, to read a lot about it, to understand the processes, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure you all know that already. But starting with rehearsals, yes, rehearsals, I feel like they are super important. It's not the same rehearsals in theater than rehearsals in film. In theater, you are based in rehearsals. You have to do the rehearsals. Otherwise, then the show, that's the show and you cannot do anything. In film, you do have the option of not doing the rehearsals. There are some directors that don't really rehearse and they just go for it on the set. I feel like I would rather do some rehearsals before. You discover a lot of things doing that, and you try a lot of things, and new ideas can pop out within that rehearsal. So it's like gold that when that happens. That's one thing. The second thing I would say is that every actor is super different, that we cannot treat every actor like it's the same person. In my last set, not in this film, but in my last set, I had 12 actors, and every actor was totally different, of course, because everybody is a different person, different personality, different background, culture, and so I had to treat everyone like different needs, and not everybody is in the same mood every day, and they cannot perform in the same level or whatever, no? And the third thing is that I like to create in a production when I'm on a set. I like to make it like if it's an experience, a beautiful, positive experience. Like, when you are hosting maybe an event at your house, and it's maybe you have a party at your house, for example, and you are the host. You want to make sure that all your guests are okay. You want to make sure that do you have water? Do you know, like for me, I like to make that as an experience. And I had a situation where actors would come to me asking for another day of shoot, and I would be like, well, the script is all shot. There's, I don't know what to tell you, and there's no more budget. But emotional tears of like, I liked a lot the experience. It's not so much about, let's do this shot and this take and It's more like, okay, we are all in this story involved, And so I think that's beautiful.
Okay, here's the part where you all start to hate me. Again, please keep in mind I'm coming from a business background and I deal with employees. I'm coming from a military background where I don't care if you think you're different. As actor, and I think moving into directing has made me a better actor. I'm an actor too. I'll be on Netflix in May. I think that directing has made me a better actor and producing has made me a better actor because in putting on my director and producer hat, the actors, you're going to show up 2-3 hours after everybody else has already been working. You're going to be the first one to leave. All right. All I need you to do is say your lines, hit your mark, and walk away saying thank you. That's what I need you to do. All right. And if you've ever read Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill, great book. That's what he does. He shows up, he says his line, know your lines, damn it, and walks away saying thank you. That's what you need an actor to do. All of the, I don't want to say all, a lot of the problems that you might have with actors come from not doing proper pre-production. Again, military guy, I plan things. I make sure that I talk to the actors before we get to set, before a table read, so that I can see where they're coming from as far as a character goes. And sometimes you just may have to say, look, I just need you to do it this way, and it's on them to do. So I when it comes to actors, I think a lot of issues come from not proper pre-production. Does that make sense?
So guys, I only got time for one question, and you gotta be very brief, you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Here you go, Dan. Yes.
I mean, the obvious one from this panel versus the past panel is what makes you want to make a film out of a screenplay? Like what, I know it's not one thing, but what is it? Are there certain elements where you say, I gotta make this? Assuming you haven't been involved in the script yourself.
I'm gonna pass this pretty quickly because I was actually the director and writer of my film. So for me that was pretty easy, but I'd love to hear from everyone else.
For me, does it make me feel something? If it's not coming through on the page, then and I'm helping a friend with the script now, a friend I've known for a long time, and his script just doesn't have that element. He's written the plot's fine, but I just feel a bit dead by the time I got to the end of it. So it has to move you and it has to surprise you, and I also like when it's made you think of something you've never thought before and spark that curiosity.
For me, if it wasn't something that I wrote, I think that I like the creator. I know it will be fun to work with and interesting and fulfilling, and so this is the first thing. Second, I like it when they bring something that is new that I didn't think about, and third, that I find myself in it, because I have to feel related to this subject. Otherwise, I'm not the right person to direct it for me.
Yeah, I always feel, screenplays are such an amazing art form, and so rarely does anyone ever get to read the amazing work that screenwriters do. So I do like a screenplay that I can just read, like that engages me, even from that writer's perspective in a way. I don't write. I mean, I wrote portions of my film. I mean, and the story came from me, but I needed a writer to kind of go there. Like I always feel uncomfortable kind of making characters do bad things or do things that like make the wrong choices in life or something because I root for them too much. But so you kind of need a writer who's able to kind of take a character on a journey or make them show the flaws and then hopefully transform that. So I think to me there's definitely something to screenwriting style that like will grab you. I love a script that kind of just gets me reading it and wanting to turn the page. But then it's also, it just comes down to looking for that character transformation, I think. And I think you mentioned something in the last panel about when the side characters have, like I do love that in a film when when side characters, when they have arcs or not, but like you just feel like they have a life outside of the film, or what everyone feels like there's a life outside of just the story of the movie. And you want to know more maybe for the future too.
Super quick. No, I'm laughing because literally last week, a friend of mine in LA tells me that he wants me to direct a sex comedy. So I'm like, why? I think that yes, it's what everybody says. You need to have something that of the script, if it's not yours, it needs to be something that thrives you, that motivates you. Because if you're gonna go through the whole process of pre-production until post, or whatever, it needs you to have some type of motivation for sure, for your heart.
So if it's a feature or a TV show, I'm a Breaking Bad guy. I'm a Indiana Jones guy. Give me some action up front. We'll get to character development later. We'll get to that. But give me something up front. So basically 10 pages, 8 pages. If I'm not invested in it by then, if it's a short, I mean, you got like 3 pages maybe, to hook me on it. So yeah, I like to see something right up front.
All right, guys, this is it.
Thank you.